Hello, everybody. My name's David Hume. I'm from MarketMan. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time out to come to the event. I think one of the marvelous things about UK hospitality is the community and the willingness to share information, and the willingness to attend these events, just to, build the community, to network, and share experiences and knowledge. So I'd like to thank all of the panel, first of all, as well, for agreeing to do this. Really appreciate it. As we all know, the UK hospitality has been very, very challenging for a long time, and it felt pretty timely, this event, with all the changes that were taking place on the 1st of April. So the event's going to center around those changes and what hospitality can do, not only to survive, but hopefully thrive beyond those changes as well. I'm going to pass the mic over to the panelists and let them introduce themselves. And then after that, we're going to have a panel discussion. I'll moderate it where there's a few questions, but it's going to be an open discussion, essentially, just so that we can make it as enjoyable as possible, really, rather than being questions and answers. So I'll pass it over to you, Hans.
Hello, thank you. My name is Hans Arthur. I'm the enterprise sales manager at Dojo. Been with them for 6 years. Previously worked in hospitality for 20 years, so hopefully I can add a little bit to the conversation. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Furness. I am the EVP of product for MarketMan. Been in restaurant tech for about 6-7 years now. Big background in payments, but coming from different front of house solutions around and now the back of house. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right. My name's Elliot. I'm the general manager of One Lombard Street in Bank. And I try my best to push every part of my tech stack to be as integrated and as user-friendly as possible for both employees and also the guests, which pay my bills.
And I'm Sebastian. I'm director of partnerships at Tenzo. Been with the company for 6 years now, which is kind of crazy, almost 6. Was a restaurant operator before then, back in Peru, which is actually where I'm from. It's sweet.
Well, look at me.
I'm just passing it to Mike.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I'm the head of restaurant systems for Honest Burgers. We've got 39 locations in UK and about 870 employees. Been there for about 11 years now. My background is ops, and the last 4 years I've been working on putting together the current tech stack for Honest Burgers. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Right, we're going to dive in with the first question. And Elliot, as soon as you've got the mic, it's for you to start off with. So what are your biggest concerns regarding the recent changes to minimum wage, national insurance, and the business rates relief?
So there's a couple of things, really. So any of you that have heard of Trinity in Clapham, one of the most amazing restaurants, Adam Byatt, complete godsend to hospitality. I think he's really clever in what he does with dishes. And he was speaking this morning and saying, if you take £100 in a restaurant, only £10 of that actually goes in your back pocket. That's not EBITDA, okay? There's still more to come out. So for £100, how many of you would get up out of work and go and do what you want, and then only find out that you're actually getting a tenner from that? So let's break it down. So for example, in fine dining restaurants, £35 of that is going to be on your labor. That's paying your staff. And that's not paying things like recruitment costs or any other things that'll be attached to it, whether it be Indeed or any of that jargon. That's gone. Then before you know it, you've got to pay 20% on VAT. So £55 of that 100 quid's already gone. We haven't even started talking about rent. We haven't talked about service charge. Okay, that's 15% in my restaurant. So again, we're now at 60%, and we again haven't really done anything behind that, and that leaves the margins getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, the beautiful thing about restaurants, certainly when it goes through challenges and changes and everything like that, we invariably find a solution. We're the oldest sort of a profession in the world, and so there's always survival where you have to eat, you have to drink, and sometimes you want to go to a nice place. But the solutions now are not adding to your workforce and making it bigger is finding small 1% changes to make a big difference. So, for example, we were talking earlier about EPOS systems. A great EPOS system is one that your server is not using all the time, but actually your server is integrating and working with the guests. Or whether it's a cash up at the end of the evening and your manager isn't like scrolling through Excel sheets and pulling the cash up data onto it. It's one click, it's done. So this is what we need to do. That's part of the solution, right? But the big thing that we also need to look at is there's many different companies within this room. And all of you guys, in terms of making this workforce and the hospitality workforce better, has to start talking to each other, start integrating, start being able to pass information without it being such a brick wall. Otherwise, you end up in my solution at the moment, or my challenges at the moment, where I've got a great tech stack. However, my tech stack doesn't 100% talk to each other. So now we've got these bits of, do we have to remove one of those people in order to fix that problem? So it's both an answer and a challenge all at the same time, I guess, with that one.
That's right. Tell me how you. Sorry.
Well, we went caught off guard like everyone. I think we have planned for the national minimum wage to increase like everyone, but the national insurance was not budgeted for, and that was a blow for us. It's literally a whole chunk of our EBITDA that goes away without bringing anything in return. So I think the worry is how everything is stacking up. The national minimum wage, the national insurance, the potential impact on the rates, and also what's coming next, we don't know. It just still, there's nothing that goes into our favor. And my worry, not specifically for Honest Burgers, in general, is that small businesses are going to end up going under. Or they will end up replacing workforce with, kiosks or stamp or order at pay at table, because they just can't handle the costs of the wages and the labor going up. And as you said, it's all adding up, and your bottom line and your margin then just vanishes away. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it just right now. I think we're wanting on that later, but we have to put together a strategy to protect the top line sales, the bottom line, and everything in between to survive like it.
And following on from that, have you thought about, or have you started looking at any other kinds of technology to either offset some of that, maybe driving more sales or reducing operational costs, etc., to try and combat the increase?
Absolutely, it's a huge focus for me this year. So one of the main focus is around workforce management, because labor is our biggest cost, like everyone. So looking at finding a system that help us to forecast sales, covers, or items accurately, so we can predict exactly where the demand is throughout each day, and then trying to match the labor to that. So having a system that help us to find the best labor model to match the workforce to the demand of the business, so we have the right people at the right time to take the maximum sales when the sales are there, but also we don't end up wasting hours or wasting wages when the sales are not there. We work really hard around dead hours or admin hours or anything that's happening before we actually take even a single pound of sales. Anything around opening, closing time, and any admin duties, we try to reduce them and automate them as much as possible. Then the work being done around automating a lot of processes. So smart scheduling, getting the road that's done for us and taking away all that admin time for the managers so they can focus on the experience, driving the sales, training the team, looking after the guest. And we're launching things like loyalty, which is very new for Honest Burgers. We've been around for almost 14 years now. We never had loyalty. We always thought our GMs are the loyalty scheme. They recognize who's coming in. They make you feel welcome. They remember you. They know what you like. Well, at this point in time, we need to find a way to reward people for being loyal to us. So we're launching a loyalty scheme this year to try to drive people to visit more often. So once again, we work on the top line sales for this specific case. Pay at table, not order and pay at table, because it doesn't fit our culture, but pay at tables in order to turn tables faster at peak time and take more revenue through the same time with the same labor. Once again, top line sales and all kind of things around pricing strategy, which we'll touch on very soon.
Amazing. At least how does that differ from what you guys are doing, you know, from a fine dining perspective?
Not very. If you want to know the truth, I think for us, like we brought in StoreKit. That's been amazing for us actually. And the way that we use it is that, you know, again, you get the bill dropped, but you know, British culture is not to then stand there with a card machine and then wait for the person to then review the bill and go, right? It's give it a minute, let them look after and then go back. But, you know, the reality is where I work in the city, where you've got a huge amount of people, people in finance, whether it be insurance, whether it be, you know, on foreign exchange or however it may be, the time is precious. So we've given them the option of being able to pay then and there. We also, on our drinking tables, allow for both a waiter to go over and take the order, but also on top of that, we allow for the guest to be like, look, I'm having a private meeting at the moment. Look, if you leave me be, I'll just order through the QR code here. And the thing is fine dining restaurants, right? There is such this like mythical thing where we're scared of tech. We're like, you know, where they come in and they're, you know, like, when's the last time you went to a really nice restaurant and they didn't use a pad and a pen? And then the poor waiter's then legging it to the EPOS system, typing it in and then running away. We have to move away from that, right? And, you know, for me, that's the next precipice. That's the bit that where, you know, we bring fine dining into the next era. But the trick behind that is by not having a backlit screen, having, you know, a person sort of stand there, you know, looking like Blair Witch Project in a beautiful mise-en-scène restaurant that someone spent loads of money on. Okay, no, it's about making sure that this operates for the venue, the scene, and that's to come, right? But for now, it's about making sure that water flows the quickest and easiest way. And that, what I mean by that is your employees, whoever they may be, will do the easiest thing for them when up against it. So no matter what you do, and no matter what the structural points of what you place in, if there's something easier that and you haven't implemented it and, you know, put cause and effect into it, they're going to do it. And so we found this, you know, as soon as we start putting the QR codes out and making it easier for them, like, you're in the shit, put down the QR code. Like, God, like, make your life easier. Guess what? You still get a service charge on that, you know? And so they're like, what? I don't have to, yeah, okay. So, but use it as a, you know, an upsell. Use it as something rather than being, sorry, I'm really busy. I've got to take the QR code. You go from there. Hey, look, I'm going to be with you in a second. However, if you're in a real rush, just place your order through there. I'm still here. If you want water, top it up. I'll top up your wine, whole lot. But the point behind it is they've got that access point to be able to deal with it. And that's the bit what we have to, as fine dining restaurants, sort of, I know, just take our head out of our ass and move on with making sure that we're going into the future. Because the ones that don't do that are genuinely going to die. Like, you know, labor models are very high. You know, right now in my kitchen, I've got 19 chefs prepping. That comes with a cost. You know, I've got 15 front of house members of staff. Comes with a cost. So if you can find these little 1%, and only ever attack, for me, my approach has always been like attack 1%. You're never going to take 10% saving in a business. If you attack one thing at a time, small incremental changes, and those will be your key to success. You're never going to get, I've got 92 members of staff, them all to do something instantaneously. The roadblocks are too big.
Wow. Pretty speechless, actually. I think it's interesting how there's so much commonality between, you know, the two different businesses, which are vastly different, but also some vast differences also. And, you know, fine dining being pulled into a technological era, essentially. Tommy?
No, I'm totally with you, and the way you're using technology to complement the experience, so to give the option to the customer, as you said, whether they want to pay and leave quickly or just have the full experience using a waiter. You don't try to take the waiters away or save cost, and it's the right way. I think coming out of COVID, it was kind of death by QR codes everywhere, and people were very unpleasant. And just here's your QR code, and you just kind of having a very shit experience. Like, You sit down with a few friends and family, everyone's on their phone trying to scroll through the menu. It's not a great experience. So I think you're doing the right way, and it's inspired for the brands that are even on a higher scale. Well,
Thank you.
So let's now pose the question to the technology panelists that are here as well. Yeah, exactly. That's the first person I'm going to go to, Seb, because I think what Tommy was talking about, leveraging data and really using that data to push top line sales. It feels like that's somewhere in Tensor's wheelhouse, especially the forecasting side of things.
Honestly, I'm very happy because both things you have been saying connect so nicely to what we do at Tenso. I'm not gonna pitch Tenso right now, don't worry. But basically, so what we are doing now is really listening to what operators are doing. So for example, when you were saying, Elliot, it's about finding that 1%. How are you gonna drive an improvement of 1% in how you're deploying your labor? How are you going to drive an improvement of 1% on your average ticket price, right? These are the things that we're working with operators to automate so that instead of their teams, out there building a specific report, they're actually making decisions and being out there with their customers. Having said that, we don't necessarily know what the specific solution is going to look like. What we're trying to do is sitting down with someone like Tommy, understanding, okay, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Is it about getting the decision makers in the restaurant, the general managers in the restaurant, just the right information so that they actually understand, was this a good day or not? Was the decision that I made last week on staffing, or is this special that I launched on the happy hour, is it actually sticking? They easily can find this and then drive that improvement week to week. You understand what's happening because you have the data already right there with you. And we don't necessarily know what that's going to be. What we do is sit down with, Tommy or Elliot, look at what they're trying to achieve and build the solution, build the dashboard that they need. So really what we are doing now with all these changes in the labor legislation really is around trying to prevent when possible, and you're thinking ahead. Also look at what's happening so that you have the tools to make the next improvement in the operation. So that's really how we're thinking about it, and trying to make it as easy as possible for the operators to do what they're kind of aiming to do.
Yeah. And I'm hearing a lot of kind of, it needs to be incremental changes, there's not going to be any huge shifts that's going to turn the business around. So I think that probably now segues nicely into you two guys heavily from payment backgrounds, but obviously John now in MarketMan. So from a Dojo perspective, Hans, where do you see Dojo really helping operators, or what can you guys do to help those incremental changes essentially, especially around data? Because I know you guys are doing some.
Well, that's hot off the press. Yeah, no, this is music to my ears. Actually, what you're saying, we process over 30% of the UK's hospitality payments. That's in 4 years. We've achieved that. So everything you're saying, we've actually built our products around hospitality. We don't just do the Dojo Go card machine. We've got QR payments. So you can scan, take the payment. We've actually built that whole experience. We're now building a new order and pay scan, and you can actually take that payment as well. Online payments, you get Dojo Pocket on an all-in-one order pay device. But for the hospitality operators, it's all on one mid. So you're not getting separate bills or separate kind of transactions. It's all flowing into the same dashboard, which simplifies the whole process. And you're given that opportunity for your business, letting the customers decide how they want to pay. And we see what you're saying about fine dining, and I can't say the business name, but they're a very large business. We're just signed one location, and they're must have, and they never did QR before, was QR payment, because they wanted the customer kind of for theaters to leave and have that experience. And we're seeing massive need for QR payments at order and pay as well. But then the actual feedback, taking into Google Google reviews, is key as well. We actually have that with Dojo, so and not upsucked, but it was. So yeah, so we're building our products all around hospitality at the minute. So everything the gentlemen are saying, we're there, we understand, and give us a call.
And John, what about MarketMan?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, just kind of listening to the overview and looking at how incremental changes in workflow can actually improve dramatically down the line. And when I think about our roadmap and I think about how we tackle the problem and when we speak to customers, it's just that it's looking at what tools and capabilities specifically around how do you optimize your inventory, how do you make sure that your food waste, you're not throwing out valuable ingredients. And building and working with customers, but building tools that allow operators to optimize. And I know, I'm sure, AI will get thrown in the conversation at some time, but I think just being able to leverage tools, not necessarily to replace people, but leverage tools to enhance the output of people. And you spoke about some of the front of house capabilities around QR code and payments and all that. And coming from a POS world, a lot of innovations happened there. The COVID pandemic kind of accelerated a lot of innovation there around online ordering and QR code ordering, but it took away a lot of the personalization components of interacting, especially in hospitality. But then when you take that and you put into the back of house, it's essentially how do you start building capabilities that allow you to optimize your inventory, optimize your labor back of house. You mentioned you had 19 prep chefs, right? So are they utilizing their time effectively and essentially utilizing the ingredients that they have? And when you look at the tooling that we I'm not going to plug this, but as any provider in this space that wants to kind of enhance their customer experience needs to kind of work towards improving their capabilities.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Sure.
So how do you translate that to the 19 pref chefs that they are working in a way that has got high productivity? Because I've spoken to chefs. Don't know how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't just tell them to work faster. But I think understanding, true food costs, understanding wastage, understanding, if we have all these ingredients, but, and again, looking at, potential sensitivity of chefs and attitudes and all that kind of stuff, right? But, in some use cases, how do I optimize, some extra, I have, some venison I need to optimize. How do I optimize that for a dish? Knowing that I have X amount of covers coming in, and being able to allocate that and not necessarily, toss it into the waste bin. So I think leveraging technology where you may have typically leveraged the resource, a human, kind of allows for that, that shift in dynamic. And given all that's kind of happened here in the last month with the changes, I'm from Canada, so looking at the changes, prepping for the session is like that's a lot. That's a lot of change, and we're just talking on the side there. Like there's a lot of Canada's gone through a lot of change as well in the last month as well. But ultimately, looking at the impact of the restaurant industry, I think technology is really going to drive the change. And I think the notion, I can't recall who said, like, if you're not using technology to manage and build your business, you're not going to be around. I think that's a true statement for anyone in the room.
Well, as soon as you mentioned AI, let's push that topic, I suppose. So from an operator's point of view, and you were talking, Elliot, about, fine dining kind of moving into that technological era. Is AI on the radar? Is there anything out there that you guys have been looking at or considering to use?
Yes and no. Okay. AI has come to me in a way that you would probably not normally imagine. So end of day reports from the management. Oh my God, they're so full of waffle now. Like they're just pointless. They're AI generated crap, right? They're actually removing away from actually what's happening. I'd rather than bullet point saying table 41 had a delayed thing, but now it's like table 41 had an experience that wasn't quite like our normal way, and we, and the béarnaise sauce was a little bit late. However, we found the magical way of making it work. Oh my God, like fuck.
That's fair. That's fair.
And honestly, I read that in the morning, I'm like, Christ, like, yeah, why bother? And I think that's the bit where it's disingenuous. That's the bit where I'd rather just someone just tell me the truth and like unfilter it. And that's what we say to our management team and our people with there. Like, just don't give me gumph. Just tell me the actual facts, and then we can deal with it, and we can have meaningful solutions for it. However, that being said, like, it's going to be here. You got to be, you know, completely under a rock if you don't think it's going to have an effect on the way that we do it. So, you know, workforce management will do, you know, the perfect labor platforms and whatnot within it, you know, and all of these other things with, you know, menu management, menu engineering, which kind of, I don't know, they take away the personality a little bit, but they also put things in places where humans, you know, react with it better. It's not always going to be, you know, to everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, certainly with menu boxes, menu engineering, where you put things in boxes, more people are going to click it, right? It's nuts. Like you could put your worst performing dish on a menu in a box, and it will have an increase of 30%. I can tell you that as a fact, right? And these little things are the things that AI are going to bring on to making things better and making things a little bit more streamlined. The fear is the personality being left and it being full of gumph on end-of-day reports.
What about from your perspective, Tommy? I know you're always looking at new technologies. Is there something that you guys are thinking?
Yeah, we are. Where to start? So there's we have implemented AI already in some areas of the business. We've recently launched an AI bot or an AI assistant for our teams that generally reads everything related to working for Honest Burgers, our recipes, on policies, day in the life, and support them throughout the whole journey from the moment they leave and throughout the shift and troubleshoot anything that happens. So we use AI to support them and to answer a question on the fly 24/7, when back in the days, they would have to go into a knowledge library and try to browse and find the right resources or try to reach out to someone from central support. Obviously, we work a lot, but we don't work 24/7. But our restaurants are open from 6 a.m. To midnight. So in some cases, they will have to wait for the next day, someone to be available to answer the question. That brings them on the spot answer straight away in their language as well. So we support multiple languages. You can ask in French, Italian, Spanish, anything. That means that it's a bit more inclusive and so on. So we're starting with the people side of it to be in terms of support. But I've got a master plan in my head that's slowly unfolding for the next few years. My goal going into 2026 is to pretty much have automated the whole kind of management of our restaurants. So starting from now, there's AI and there's machine learning. I think it all falls under AI. Everyone is using AI, but it's not really AI, but let's call it AI for tonight. So the goal is to get the forecasting practically automated and through AI fitting into workforce management that then create a schedule, fully automated schedule, smart scheduling based on all rules and labor models and people availability and preferences and so on. So it's just a matter of almost pushing a button, reviewing, making a few tweaks, pushing that to the teams, then assist with any change. If someone called in sick or someone needs to change anything, finding the best replacement and so on, then that same forecast can fit into platforms in the future like MarketPlan potentially to then trigger your ordering, and then we can try to automate the inventory and so on. Basically, what's currently using probably 7 to 14 hours a week per location, I'm trying to bring it down to an hour a week per location. Because those, in my opinion, are the hours that I would rather get the managers to focus on other things. And then there's things that bring actual additional revenue. So I talked here about loyalty. AI can be great when it comes to loyalty to really personalize offers to people based on what they've actually been ordering in restaurants. But also I see future, it's not there yet, but I'm pushing some till system to do it, where I believe when someone's actually doing table side ordering based on what they've actually added to the table already, bring up recommendations and upsells based on what people, a bit like when you go to Sainsbury's or Tesco's, based on what you've already ordered, you're more likely to want this and this and this, and that can just bring up the average set. And then things like an order at table, maybe an order at table, but if you want to just top up your order and you don't really want to bother a waiter or anything like that, I'm looking at you because it's kind of what you have you just have an extra drink or extra chips or anything like that. All those things, they slowly increase the average spend because people don't feel judged when they ask for a second beer or third beer. I mean, I easily have 4 in one go. So I know I would definitely pour if I use a QR code. And all those things bring together, just generate support the businesses.
Thanks so much. I'm going to ask the vendors now the same question. If we're going to break for some drinks and some food, and then we're going to have a second panel. So I think, yeah, over to you, Seb. How,
Yeah, I'll take it. It's interesting. So just to hear you talk about it, because what we're seeing from the Tensor side is there's a lot of ready-made AI applications on recommending things, so on like kiosks. We also see that on chatbots. In our case, we actually do an interesting mix because we're taking some steps on AI. We're basically focusing on just forecasting. So what are you going to sell next week, right? Which we tend to be pretty good at. But the interesting thing is actually combining this like new thing, AI forecasting, which is kind of new and old, with a very simple matching of what are you actually planning to sell next week. So the new thing, which is getting that forecast, which is old school looking at who did you schedule next week? And what's your goal of profitability for next week? And just combining these two things so that the manager is looking at every day of next week. They're understanding if they're overstaffed, understaffed, making better decisions. So what we're kind of doing is really matching the kind of these new technologies with just a very old school way that works, right? Which that's what really matters, and getting that on the hands of the decision maker. And like, this is sort of the same thing I said before, because this is really what we're trying to do, which is making it simple and bringing down these sort of technologies into the decisions that the specific store manager, regional manager, or the different people in the restaurant are making, meeting them where they are, getting those better decisions made. So that's kind of what we're seeing and how we're applying it in Tensor specifically. At least today, I'll skip the future part. I'm sure we'll do some really cool stuff, but I'll leave it there for.
and Hans, I mean, do payments really employ AI at the moment?
Loads. Yes. Oh, hello. Hi there, execs. So yeah, we are pretty big with AI, and we're a cloud native platform. It's only 4 years old. Most payment infrastructure is built in the 70s and 80s. Because we actually own that whole experience, Jan, our founder, they've been tokenizing that data. And 1 at 6 transactions in the UK in the high street is Dovio. So that 14-digit code, we're using a bit of AI analytics. We can track that all around the UK and Ireland, and even in Europe now. And we can actually tell if your mail, where you live, where you shop, if you've got a pet, where you get your haircut. We can actually build that profile with that data. And we're starting to now share that with some of our enterprise clients, obviously with GDP or in full, but we're helping that data with AI and for marketing teams, so we can identify if it's a first time customer for your business. So if you're doing a new kind of like new offer, marketing are like, well, yeah, it worked. Well, how do you know it worked? Was it first time customers coming into your business? We can now give you that data. We could tell if it's an international card. It is insane. And that is what's coming. We also use our cloud native is Google, AWS backup. And so a lot of Google's products, Gemini and stuff like that is coming into the business as well. So it's very exciting. I absolutely love AI because there's nothing worse than sending emails all day long where this is, I don't want to give your personality to it, but it does certainly speed things up and it makes the sales process a lot more smoother as well.
I had absolutely no idea.
It's insane.
John, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, we, from an AI perspective, it's top of mind for us as a business, as a product organization. Doing AI for the sake of doing AI is those kind of, that's not what you want to do. We want to make sure we're solving real use cases. As we kind of think about this, and Elliot kind of talking about menu engineering, for me, top of mind is how do you combine kind of the tooling behind the scenes, but then layer in all the data points around. So like, menu engineering, but looking at it from a futures perspective, what is the cost of commodities over time or forecasted commodities? How does that play a role in your purchasing behavior now? And leveraging those tools, looking at, I'm shocked that you're getting that level of consumer detail, but but being able to get into that consumer detail, look at, well, I have people from this demographic coming. I know that they kind of order these kind of things. How do I tie all those things together? So I think, building that capability and providing that insight, that timely insight to operators is what, is where we're going and something that we look forward to delivering.
I just absolutely. I'm not for what people saying the things. So, I think we come from an industry that back in the days, and I'm gonna sound old. I'm only 40 years old, but back in my days, when you became GM, when you became an assistant manager, or even a shift manager, you would have to do your time. You have to be a waiter for a very long time, that you set bar as a head waiter and then shift manager. And ultimately, when you become a GM, you would end up having, quite a few years worth of experience. And with that experience comes gut feeling and kind of a feel of how things kind of happening. I think as we're moving nowadays into something that's a lot more fast-paced, with Gen Z coming in and more, they're looking for a purpose and a progression that is much faster. And now with that very fast progression, we end up having generally managers that are a lot less experienced, that have been around for not as long, and also they do jump much faster between jobs and between brands. So they don't stay in the location very long, and they don't have a feel for that location when it comes to forecasting, understanding, how external factors actually impact their sales. And this is where AI comes very handy, because you almost replace the lack of experience of your managers, so the newer managers, with something that can generally ingest years worth of data of a single location, and the correlation between those sales and what the external factors, such as sales, events, and so on, and bring you a much more accurate forecast in general and suggestion for your business. And it just makes it a bit easier with younger managers to actually get results using AI. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think one thing is it will replace mostly experienced TMs with GMs that just good with people. They can good with managing their teams, and AI will take care of the rest.
It's interesting, actually. I heard a term recently, and I'm a big fan of the term, because I think one thing everybody's scared about is that AI is going to replace people in one way, shape, or form. And a friend of mine's got a pretty successful AI business. And their whole methodology is about human-machine teaming. How do you enlist the use of AI to really hone in on what that human is capable of? If that human is, great with people, that's what they should be doing. So if you can give them the tools in the background to do that and be with the customer, then everybody benefits.
100%. I think the thing behind that is, like, hospitality people are good at making magic, right? You go onto the table, they make you smile. They go, "Oh, how are you having a good day? What's your birthday? Amazing. How do you know?" All of those sort of little bits, dotted around. Like, that's what we're awesome at. The bits that we tend to be really bad at, and I'm a massive dyslexic, is like the emails at the end of the evening when, it's like half 11 at night, and it's like the first time you've been able to, like, open your laptop, and you're like writing gobbledygook to people, and those little bits. They're the bits that you're going to create a better synergy and a better workflow that's going to happen. And I think the thing is what we're going to have going forward, and I think you've touched on it, is obviously the workforce has got a lot younger, but I think that obviously has a big influence of COVID and whatnot. But also on top of that, and this is something that I really want people to take away, is half of hospitality colleges in the UK have shut in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a moment to realize that. And that is why we're having to do these massive changes and big workforce changes, and to be able to detail with it, because the knowledge isn't coming through. You can't ask someone how to do a forecast if they haven't, worked in the business for 7 years, or, been supported with it, or had an educational part of it. So what you're saying is really impactful, because actually 100%. I want my, the GMs and restaurant managers to just smash out the floor. That's why I've employed you. That's what you're good at, right? I don't want you to be amazing and, have an accountancy degree and all the other sort of stuff. That takes away from the magic. Okay. And magic is the bit and the experience of what every single one of, if you're a restaurateur, or whether you run a hotel or whatever, that's the little twinkle in the eye, like, "Hey, are you having a good day?" It's raining outside and someone comes and gets your coat so you're dry, and, all of those little bits. Those people that go the extra mile, allow for those people to go an extra mile and take all the crap out of what they do. I feel like I'm going to have to do a disclaimer of all the times I swear on.
Here. I think that rounds it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great place to end this particular panel discussion on. Thank you so much